Commission to order for October 4th, 2023. And for the record, everyone is here except for Jerry Freecott. The first thing is the minutes from September 20th. Any questions or comments? If not, a motion's in order.
Move to approve. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. All right, as usual, we'll skip over some, well, actually, why don't we do this? We have F.J. Roberts on here for their application number 3, and we have Mark Zawatsky and Andy Barr, I think, available on screen. So what's the story with the gym floor closeout for Hyman Fine and Hill Roberts? And for the record, here's Jerry. So we have everyone here tonight.
Do you want me to talk about it? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, everything, we have all the paperwork, we have as-built, we have basically everything, we reviewed it all, and it is all acceptable. And I have signed and sent over the requisition and recommend payment of that.
And Mark, you agree?
I do, sir. Ditto. I would recommend that the Municipal Building Commission entertain the final requisition and end this contract that took too long.
Okay. All right. Any questions from commission members? Then I guess a motion is in order to approve F.J. Roberts application number 3 in the amount of $131,033.85.
Move to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. The next bill is for the police roof for Mark. Is this an order to be paid, Mason?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. All right, that is a segue to the police roof project update. Who wants to talk first? Mark, do you?
Sure, I'll jump in and say it's my understanding that the complete project manual, bid, the specifications, invitation to bid, and all the information as well as the drawings have been properly advertised on both the Central Register and in the local newspaper, and we have a bona fide procurement underway. One of the questions that I am aware, so there are two issues I think for the Municipal Building Commission to discuss and potentially take action on. One would be your review of the bid set documents, because we did begin procurement because of the tight timeline here a little bit in advance of this meeting. So we wanted to give you the opportunity to comment, and any requests or modifications to the documents will be certainly incorporated within the addenda. The second one is whether or not the pre-bid meeting is that's scheduled for October 11th is mandatory or non-mandatory. So I know that those are two of the issues, and later I can talk about my recent conversations with Chief Hagney and some of the adjustments that he'd like incorporated within the upcoming addenda. So other than that, I think we have a very well conformed, concise, comprehensive set of bid documents that will serve the city well. And we're just obviously going through the process because we're all process-driven people, and we're looking forward to it playing out. So happy to entertain any questions or discussion.
So I'll start by saying that this is what we were given, and I thoroughly read every page this afternoon. Actually, I read the first 4 or 5 pages.
You caught a couple typos, I'm sure.
No, I didn't. But what I was the one, I think, who raised the question of whether the pre-bid meetings should be mandatory or precatory. And I think our experience has been that we don't want to exclude someone just because they didn't show up. They're doing it at their own risk. So as far as I'm concerned, it should be precatory. But
So Jack, it's Rich Gorham here. So we also recommend the same thing, that it's A, B. It does not have to be mandatory. Most of the roof projects that we put out there's nothing special that absolutely says somebody needs to be there for it. There's not a special condition that would really warrant it. So,
well, the thing that people take at their own risk if they don't show up is understanding the antennas, I think, on the roof, and that the police station has to remain functional during this entire project. But I don't think that we should require them to show up. I don't know what the opinion is of those around the room.
I agree. I think they're bidding at their own risk if they don't show up. I mean, with Google Earth these days, you can probably just Google the location and have a little bit of an idea of what the layout is and whatnot.
yeah, that's correct. You can actually do that, and that's how we start out with a roof area plan a lot of the time. So when we develop it, we use a Google Earth photo of it, and we typically trace it, and then that's how we start. But Google Earth is certainly something that you can, most contractors use, and there are other software programs out there. So this will draw an awful lot of attention because it's a smaller roof project and it's towards the end of the year. So it should garner quite a bit of interest.
Has Socotec called any of the usual suspects?
Yes, we have actually, Jack. I've talked to, as I see contractors every day, we let them know that this particular we've let them know that this project is out in the street, and have encouraged them to go ahead and bid on the project, just so we can get as much competition in this as possible.
And Richard, just to reiterate, in the case that someone is referred to the project, if you can just make sure that they go through the website so that they're on the plan holders
I
list.
absolutely have, yeah, and that's something I have been mentioning as I run into people and potential bidders, is I refer them to the Attleboro's website, for it. One question that does need to be resolved, though, which is, I know Mark's aware of it, is that whether or not MBE or WBE requirements apply in this particular job, and I don't know that one way or another. So that's something we need, the municipal building committee to tell us.
Mason, you can confirm or deny, but my understanding is that since this is all city money, that we are not required to have MBE or WBE participation. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. I'd like to get a confirmation first before I confirm with Socotec, so I can take a look at that tomorrow.
Okay, we'll confirm tomorrow, but we believe that the answer is no, it is not required.
Okay, well, we have it in the spec right now, so what we'll do is we will take that out once we get that confirmation back.
Okay. Any questions or comments from commission members? Then I know, Mark, in your opening remarks, you said there were some issues that Chief Hegney raised?
So I actually raised a couple to the chief. One was relative to the new door from the second level out onto the roof. Generally speaking, for instance, you're probably familiar with schools and other buildings where there are code requirements to avoid trapping a person out on the roof. And Chief Hegney was appropriately unwielding, indicating that this door opens up into the detective's area where evidence is stored, and he was absolutely requesting that Socotec, the local building official within the city, and others all get together and collaborate so that we have a security and chain of custody situation that it can never be challenged. So I agree with the chief. I think that, in this day and age of cell phones and given the 24/7 nature of occupancy of the building, that if this door was locked and we had to get some kind of a waiver or amendment from the building official and from the architects, I think that we do need to secure this door from the outside. And if anybody goes out onto the roof, they'll have to prop the door open or have a lockout, tag out kind of situation where there's notification that people are on the roof and not to lock them out. And hopefully you bring a cell phone. So that was one issue that we'll work through. Obviously, related to that door is the building is master keyed. I identified in an email out to the team that I think it was Ace Hardware out of Norwood is the master keying vendor for the police station and perhaps other municipal buildings. And the successful vendor will have to communicate with Ace to finalize the keyway and the final keying of that door so that it's part of the master keying of the building. And then secondly, obviously, as you referred to, Mr. Chairman, was the issue associated with the roof antennas. Obviously, this is 24/7, 365 building. It is the communications hub of the entire police and other networks, and there are E911 implications, there are radio call communications, and I think Socotec came out with a brilliant solution relative to pitch pockets and other things to minimize the impact and the need to address a lot of the antenna issues. So I, in speaking with Chief Hegney, recommended that we include in the addenda and in the bid form an allowance for the city's radio vendor to be on site to allocate a certain sum of money, and if it's unused, it's not billed against, we resolve it via a credit change order at the end of the project. But if it is used because they need to tweak the antenna locations and orientations and adjustments, so be it. But I agree with Chief Hegney that this is critical life safety infrastructure, and it should be maintained 24/7, and that the contractor should not interfere with those ongoing communication needs. And I think Socotec and Port and the contractor will all work collaboratively with the city to make that happen. That's my hope, goal, and expectation, and I'm going to strive for that, as will Socotec.
Mark, you and others have referred to pitch pockets, and that may be a term that a lot of people understand, but maybe other people like me don't. So is that referring to pitch like tar in a pocket around the base of the thing? What is a pitch pocket?
So, Jack, it's Rich Gorham here. I think I could probably explain that one. Basically, a pitch pocket, it's just like it sounds. It's basically a metal box, okay? It's open on the top. And what we do is they install this around the radio antenna, and that's what we have in the detail. And what they'll do is so you don't even have to touch the antenna, okay? The antenna's gonna stay in place. So they'll fill that with a non-shrink grout, okay? And then they'll leave 2 inches from the top. They'll stop 2 inches from the top. And then they use what is referred to as a pourable filler or a sealer that's provided by the manufacturer. And what they do is it's a liquid, and what it does is you pour that liquid in and it hardens over time, and it seals around and goes into the gaps, joints, openings surrounding the antenna. And eventually what it does is we tool it on the top so that it sheds water off the top of the pourable sealer and onto the roof. The pitch pocket is stripped in at the base all the way around with uncured EPDM flashing into the new roof system.
Jack, the word pitch box does date back to the days of asphalt, but it's a two-part, the liquid is a two-part material that cures chemically, and usually pretty much overnight it turns to rubber, to a rubber, basically. So.
Okay.
So this concept was suggested and recommended by Socotec as a methodology to avoid interference with operations or removal or impacts to the communication towers that are on the roof of the building. It's one of many alternative courses of action that could have been taken, and certainly it's tried and true. And you indicated that this building is probably not going to be there in 25 years or so. So I believe, based on the details, that this solution is adequate for the intended purpose, and as the Socotec and their details are certainly suggestive of that.
So then,
Yeah, and it is part of the 20-year warranty.
so what happens? What happens when they need to maintain or replace this antenna? Do they just cut it off at at the top of the pitch pocket and put a new one next door to it? Is that what they have to do?
No, I mean, they can cut the pitch box is removable. I mean, basically it's this hard rubber, so they just peel it and remove it.
They can cut into it to get
either they
there.
put a new one, or they can just roof right over it. So it's not, it's basically part of the warranty. And so obviously, if that's ever done, you just have to make sure you get a certified roofer to make any repairs.
So you can cut a circle around it and take that out and get the
Yes.
antenna out. Okay.
Correct.
Forgive me, I'm not a roofer. Mason has a question.
And so the idea of the carry for the radio vendor would be to observe when this actual pitch pocket work is going on, to just as a precaution for, in the case that they do accidentally hit something, or.
Well, let me throw out that there are multiple conditions. There are different height and types of antennas. Some are actually fastened to the structure of the building, and others are just sitting on top of the roof, on top of wooden sleepers. It's those, the highly directional antennas that are facing repeater systems that need to be that have your radio communication vendor there, so that they can, when the demolition of the existing and the replacement of all the new insulation and then the gluing and all that stuff, we're going to have to create a temporary condition to accommodate the direction of the antenna. And that's why we need the radio communication vendor there, so that they can maintain the integrity of the direct signal while this work is going on. So, and that's why I want to make it under the control, why I think and I recommend to the city that we make that under the domain, the responsibility, and the means and methods of the general contractor / roofing vendor, because we don't control means and methods, and they need to coordinate this, and they need to make sure that they understand and make them partners in doing this with Socotec and Port as observers and commenters. But as you know, we can't interfere with their operations, and so we're making them responsible for this as part of their scope of work. I think that's probably one of the best solutions that we can suggest to the city.
So, Mark, just to follow up then, how long is the project?
Well, the duration of the project is from approximately November 20th, which is a Monday, to Friday, December 15th. We're hoping for good weather. We're hoping for velocity of the work, and that all things go smoothly. But I asked for an allowance. I think it was $5,000. I thought this scope of work for the radio communication vendor would be a maximum of 2 or 3 days of work or on-call facilities. I don't expect that we're going to use all the money. I'm waiting for Chief Hegney to give us the contact information, and I think that we can fine-tune that number based on future ongoing communications with the radio communication vendor, and incorporate that within the addenda, which we have more than a week out. But I just wanted to, advise and make you aware, the NBC aware, that we believe it's our recommendation to do this.
Okay, but my question, and I'll bet Mason's thinking of the same thing, is if the general contractor doesn't call this antenna company and the police are out of business, you know, that's not a good result. So why
Well, I'm gonna
aren't
be
we,
on
why
site.
don't we
I'm sorry to
require?
interrupt. I apologize.
I'm just
I'm
saying.
gonna be on site, as is the representatives from Socotec, and at our pre-construction kickoff meeting and at numerous times throughout the process, they are going to be advised that they own this vendor, that they own continuous communications, and that we have high standards and expectations relative to continuous communications. And so we're all going to be there, making sure that the contractor lives up to the spirit and the words contained within the project manual. And so all I'm saying is that rather than it becoming an operational cost to the police department and to the city, it become a capitalized expense as part of this project.
I fully agree with you, Mark, but I'm just wondering why we don't want them there every day, you know, watching what's going on as well, because by the time you call somebody in Norwood, the police are down for an hour or 2 hours, and I'm concerned about that. Why wouldn't we want to simply carry enough money to make sure that this vendor was on site as often as you were, even if they're doing nothing, just to watch what the contractor's doing? And then do they have the authority to tell the contractor stop, which is my next question.
Okay,
And Mason,
so
I don't know if you have any
radio communication
additional
vendor
things
does
on
not
that.
have authority based on the contracts to stop the work. Only the architect can do that. Item 2 is, according to Chief Hagney in my phone conversation with him, he said these folks are extraordinarily expensive. So I was trying to mitigate costs and extract value in the process. So with your permission, Mr. Chairman, what I'd like to do is continue the conversation with the radio communication vendor, with Socotec, and figure out language within there that makes sense and that finds the right balance between cost and risk. I mean, we're all risk managers here, and I hear you thoroughly and completely about why not just have them there at the whole time. I think the truth is we can find a solution that's somewhere in between, and that's why I suggested an allowance, and perhaps we can fine tune that over the next until the addenda is issued.
Mason, did you have more?
If I can comment on that also, Jack. The issue, I don't think it's going to be with the mast antenna that's there, because they'll just work around that, and that won't have to be disconnected at all. The issue is with the smaller dish type of antennas, because what happens with those, and we've been involved in these in a lot of different things, they have to be aimed in the right direction, and so the roofer has to raise them up to put the roofing on below, and then has to make sure that they're put back down in the proper position. And that's usually where you need the vendor to make sure that that it's aimed properly. And usually there's some tolerance in there. So I think an important thing to do, you know, and I know that Rich and Mark are working on this, Mark in particular, is determining which antennas do which and what are the crucial ones. What are the ones that have to be maintained the 24 hours? Because some of them may be just repeaters, and they're, you know, because there's probably a lot of redundancy in the system. So finding out which ones are the real crucial ones, and then at the pre-bid saying to the contractor, look, you can't touch these until we coordinate it properly, that type of thing. So
and one of the other things we might want to consider inviting that radio vendor to the pre-bid would be my suggestion, okay? And I don't have the contact information for that gentleman, and maybe that's something Mark can spearhead with the chief of police and see if we can get him there for this pre-bid walkthrough so that he understands what's going on as part of the project. And going to when you look at the roof, there are a number of disconnected antenna cables that are up there already. So those are already obviously they're down and probably can even be removed. But there are a few other antennas up there, one sitting on the roof, as Andy's mentioned, that will probably there'll be some coordination involved with maybe a temporary relocation of it while the roof is replaced and then reinstalled.
Okay, but my concern is that the roofer's gonna go up there, he's gonna raise something up, he's gonna put it back whatever way he wants to. We won't be sure that it's working. I would feel much more comfortable if we knew that the antenna company was on site on whatever days those things were gonna be raised, so that the police chief could understand that within a short period of time, those would be operational again. Because if all of a sudden communications go down and we got to call somebody in Norwood, to get down here, are they going to be here in 15 minutes? I don't think so.
Right. Allow us to work the process, Mr. Chairman, and we'll find the solution. This one here with the CMU or cinder blocks and this pad with that directional antenna. This one is one of the candidates for the pitch pocket, and some of the other ones over here on the right of the screen. So we can find a way to ensure proper risk management and work within a reasonable allocation and protection of city resources relative to funds. I'm trying to, dance that dance. But we hear you, and we'd be happy to invite, and I'm waiting for the chief of police to give me the contact information for the vendor, and we'll be inviting them to the pre-bid, and we'll find a way to yes here, and we'll communicate at the next meeting as to what our joint recommendation is.
Okay, we're all sensitive to spending the taxpayers' dollars, but we're also sensitive to public safety. And as you said, there's a balancing act here. But I don't want Chief Hegney yelling at us because we put him out of commission for 6 hours and it compromised his operation.
I agree with you, and Chief Hegney was very clear. He was unwielding in his request or assertion and demand. I don't want to call it demand. His statement, forceful statement, that he has to remain operational 24/7, 365, and that this project cannot interfere with communications. And that's the operating assumption that Socotec and Port are working on, and we'll find a way to yes here that works for the city and is properly allocated from a financial standpoint.
Anybody got anything else to add? Okay, any other issues we need to discuss?
Socotec, anything? No, nothing from me. I thank you for your partnership on this, and I want to say that the city, as I did last time, is high functioning. Chief Hegney, the building official, and everyone in Socotec. This is a really good team, and I think we're going to have a good outcome, weather permitting.
Okay, excellent. And just to remind everyone, we will be meeting on the 25th of October, undoubtedly at the Zito Room. You guys can be there virtually, but we will hopefully have bids in hand and a recommendation from Socotec and you, Mark, to accept a bidder that we can then turn around and recommend to the mayor entering into a contract. Mark your calendars, everyone. We absolutely need a quorum on the 25th of October to make sure that we are able to get this done, because it's a very, very tight schedule. And then just so the rest of the world knows, hopefully that will only take 10 minutes or so that night, and then we should have the Council on Aging a presentation by the architect who's doing the feasibility study of 3 revised versions of what the building could look like with cost estimates in place. So hopefully that will be a big night for us in moving that project forward as well. So, is there anything else, Mason, that we need to do on this project?
Think we're all set?
All right, then, thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the Water Department, we have a memo from Courtney Allen. I'll read it into the record. Pawtucket Interconnection. The construction phase of the project was awarded to Waterline Industries in the amount of $2,937,677. $1,844,094.64 is funded through the original loan order, and the remaining $1,093,582.36 was funded through ARPA. Attleboro Water Department has worked with this contractor in the past with very good results for HVAC renovations. Attleboro Water Department met with CDM Smith Waterline and Pawtucket Water Supply Board for final review of plans in September. There is a conflict in the placement of a water main belonging to Pawtucket that may be relocated differently than what is shown on the plans. The order for needed pipe is awaiting Pawtucket Water Supply Board's approval of modified plans. The final station is expected to be online in early 2025. So Mason, does that mean that we're going to have a change order?
I don't believe at this point there's a change order recommended yet. It's
No,
still
but it sounds like there will be one related to moving that pipe.
potentially. I don't know if it could be an add or deduct at this point. It depends on the way the plans were and then how that's actually changing. Because basically what was included in the original docs is actually, it looks like it may be different now.
Okay. Then moving on to temporary PFAS. The bid opening was on September 7th, 2023 for the temporary treatment facility at Wading River. The low bidder was Bishko Construction in the amount of $3,087,000 even. That's amazing. An even number. AWD has worked with this contractor before with great results, parens Blake Stam. The temporary PFAS treatment facility will be capable of treating 1 MGD, which is million gallons a day. Mason, is that right?
I believe so.
That's what it is.
Half the permitted withdrawal volume for the plant. The temporary station is expected to be placed online in the early summer of 2024. It will remain online until the permanent treatment plant construction is complete, expected 2027. And then for the permanent plant, AWD received a draft siting study from Tata and Howard in September. This study was necessary to determine the best placement of the new proposed plant. AWD provided comments, and we are awaiting the final revisions to the report. There is a public meeting on October 17th, 2023 for funding the design phase of the permanent plant in the amount of $1,580,000. The city has applied for state revolving fund funding for the remaining phases of this project, and we'll know in the coming weeks if the project is approved for the SRF funding. Mason, what is the public meeting on October 17th? Do you know?
I believe this is for the loan order that has been ordered.
So it's a public hearing,
Correct.
perhaps?
Correct.
Before the municipal council?
Correct.
Okay. And that is a Tuesday, so that would make sense.
Correct.
Okay. So that's the update on the water items. With regard to the Willett roof, you want to give a quick update?
At this point, they're on track to finish the final components of the roofing before the extended substantial completion deadline of October 15th. As you remember, we voted to extend that last meeting. The change order is now in effect. They're going to be billing for that soon. Before the 25th meeting, we should get essentially an invoice related to the change order, as well as Skanska, Socotec. All those invoices should be coming in. They essentially didn't come in times. Otherwise, Anjanette would have been here to kind of present a progress report. But I believe Anjanette's going to join us on the 25th to give a quick progress report as well as the invoice summary.
So we are virtually finished. And then the other thing you should know is that Mason, Socotec, Anjanette, and I met with the mayor to lay out the potential options for phase 2, which is, do we just do the window wall? Do we do that plus some windows? Do we rehab the entire exterior, remaining exterior of the building? And so she promised us that she would give it due consideration and let us know. We did explain to her that we wanted to put this out to bid perhaps in January, so that we could get the best possible price for something to be done next summer. And the school department also is looking, as we understand it, Mark Furtado was in on the discussion as well. School department is looking at, I think next summer, to do the air conditioning project. And of course, this ties in with that because windows that are 30 years old are not going to be as thermally efficient as modern ones would be. And so that was, I think, a significant factor for the mayor as she discussed it with us, which was to take that into account, that, you know, that the school department is going to air condition that building. So we'll get further direction from her, and based on what that direction is, we'll perhaps, we may not need to amend the contracts with Socotec and Skanska, and we may, depending on the scope of work that goes forward, we may need to have the city council amend the bond authorization. We may need a new bond authorization. There's a lot of moving parts.
There is. That one important thing to note, again, is that under the current contracts as they're structured, the window wall systems are still comprehended in the existing contracts. So, you know, we own that work right now, and the contractors own that work right now. Not the construction contractor, but Skanska and Socotec. And again, we've kind of all talked about it. There's sort of extensive masonry repairs that have also come up, somewhat outside of the scope of the current loan authorization. So there's ongoing discussion on whether or not to rescind remaining portions and pursue a follow-on loan authorization, or essentially borrow separately or look for another source of funding. So again, these are kind of ongoing conversations.
Stay tuned, as they used to say on television. So, October 18th is the school building committee. October 25th, we will probably be in the Zito room. And November 1st looks like our next regular meeting. Agreed, Mason?
Agreed.
Okay, so with that having been said, anybody have anything else they want to bring up tonight?
No.
Otherwise, a motion to adjourn at 6:08 is in order.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.